North America's largest developer of dollar stores. Over 4,600 stores open since 1993. For more information, visit our website at
DollarStoreServices.com.
My name is John LaFronz. I'm the general manager here at Dollar Store Services. I've been here for 19 years helping folks just like you develop their stores. Just very briefly, I've been in the discount retail industry for about 40 years, both as a store owner, as a wholesaler, district manager, and an operator of my chain of stores. I've done overseas buying, I've done domestic buying, so I've been in all facets of our business, and hopefully my experience and my missteps over the years will help you if you decide to go forward with us. So we are Dollar Store Services. We are the nation's largest developer of independently owned dollar stores. We've opened over 4,000 stores since 1993 nationwide and around the globe. We do stores in other countries as well. We do a number of different types of store formats. We do a dollar-only store, which is like a Dollar Tree. We do a Dollar Plus store, which is similar to a Family Dollar or a Dollar General. We do a big box dollar store, which starts at 10,000 square feet, and that's kind of a mini grocery. Works very well in some rural environments where retail market may be a little underserved by the big grocers and so on. We have something new and exciting, which we'll talk about later. We've been working on for about a year now. It's a $1, $2, $3 store, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it is a very exciting format. It works well in basically every environment. The store development process evening that we provide to you as part of your store development package consists of 7 key services that we provide to you. We provide financing assistance. We provide site location assistance. We negotiate your lease agreement in accord with you. Then we do a complete setup of the store, providing all the labor, the fixtures, the equipment, the merchandise, the interior signage, training, and everything that you could possibly imagine. By developing a store with us, you also have access to our supplier network with over 80 suppliers scattered around the country. And again, because you're part of that network, you can enjoy savings on merchandise of 20 to 25% versus the prices that you would pay as an individual going to those very same suppliers, because we provide so much business to them through our network of stores that just like you were part of a chain store, you're always going to get the best price on product being part of our network. So 7 key services are designed to get you from start to finish and get your store open as quickly as efficiently as possible. And I want to touch for a minute or two on each one, and then I know you have questions later. We'll get through them. In financing, we have a number of different types of lenders that we can put you in contact with. They're designed to address many different credit profiles. If your credit score needs a little bit of assistance, we have lenders that can provide that to you. We also can facilitate SBA loans, borrowing against your IRA or 401k. A lot of our owners now do home equity because the housing market is so strong. There's a lot of equity in individuals' homes, and that's the least expensive money, borrowing from yourself in essence. If you need a business plan to go to a lender, we're happy to provide that to you at no charge. And lastly, I might have mentioned this, but we can help you in securing an SBA loan. There are a lot of requirements that you have to get through to do that, but we've done them many times, and if that's something that can work for you, we can walk you through that process as well. So many options for financing. It's very easy to get started in our program. You fill out a simple application. Your sales representative can do that with you in about 10 minutes on the phone. You put in place a $500 deposit, and that deposit is fully refundable for any reason or for no reason. If you can't get financing, if we can't find you a good location, if you're not happy with the lease terms, or you just decide you want to go in a different direction, all fine. And that deposit comes right back to you. If you do end up developing a store, that $500 deposit becomes part of the purchase price of your store. So you never lose it, and it's never at risk. So that's a little bit about financing. If you decide to go forward and you get funding, or you decide to do your own funding, then we move you into our site location department. And there we assign a site location specialist in our office and a leasing manager. They will become your site development team. In site location, we identify every available location in the area you've given us to search in the size range that you would like to develop. Sure. Then we identify the locations that really don't fit our criteria. Maybe there's a competitor too close, or the rent's too high, or we don't like the condition of the shopping center, whatever those things are. We eliminate those locations, and then we provide to you the locations that we think are viable and worthy of your consideration. And we upload all the information about them onto a proprietary website that you'll have a login and password for. It's called EasyTrack. We developed it some years ago. And you will be able to see for every shopping center, for every location, the demographics, the population, the household income, the traffic going by the shopping center, the population of 1, 3, and 5 miles, the household income, and of course a map showing where all the competitors are in and around your area. You'll also have a map of the shopping center itself showing you who the other tenants are, where your location potentially would be within that shopping center. So you'll see everything there is to know about that location. Then we ask you to go out and visit those locations to give us your feedback, because you're gonna see things on the ground that we may not be able to see remotely. For example, is the shopping center well lit at night? Is it well maintained? And if you like the location, we go ahead and negotiate on that location for you to see how much free rent we can get, what's the rental rate that we can secure, how the landlord's going to deliver the space, and so on. And we will negotiate on more than one location, certainly. We'll negotiate on a number of them, because at the end of the day, we want you to have some good alternatives in terms of a location. And we can also help you compare and contrast one location against the other to hopefully give you all the information you need to make the best possible decision on that location. And that is always your decision. We will give you all the support, certainly give you all of our input, but at the end of the day, it's your store. You're gonna determine that that location is the best for you. So once we've gotten to that point, we're getting ready to negotiate the lease. Then our leasing manager that's part of your team takes over, and he's going to do that final negotiation with the landlord. And each of our leasing managers negotiate well over 100 retail leases a year. They're very skilled, and especially so with regards to our business. They work solely for us. They're here in our office. We don't use outside agents or anything like that. And they know what's most important in negotiating a dollar store type lease. For example, we start with a letter of intent that we present to the landlord for a location that you have interest in. In that letter of intent, we propose what the rent should be, how much free rent we want, how the landlord should deliver the space to you. We want it in what we call vanilla shell condition. Floors in, ceilings in, walls are painted, basically ready to occupy. But along with that letter of intent, we ask for over 17 key provisions, and they're all designed to protect you as the business owner. And I'll give you just a few examples. We always insist that the space and the restrooms specifically are ADA compliant. And what that means is that the space complies with the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. In other words, it's handicapped accessible. Because if you were to lease a space and you found that the restrooms were not handicapped accessible, that can be a $10,000, $15,000 expense for you. You have to expand the size of the restroom. You have to provide a wider door. You have to put new fixtures in there that are, again, handicapped accessible, and so many other things. We want to make sure the landlord bears that expense and not you. So that's a very important provision. It's only one of the 17. Others include, for example, exclusive use, meaning that you will be the only dollar store in that center. The landlord can't turn around in 6 months or a year and lease to another dollar store, because that's going to have a bad impact on your business. So we want that guarantee in there. We also negotiate what's called the dark clause, which a lot of people are generally not familiar with. But what that means is if you sign a lease, and part of the reason you signed that lease is because there's a great anchor tenant in the center, maybe there's a Target store or a grocery store, and you like the center because of that, because it's busy and it brings customers to your store as well. That big tenant moves or closes, well, all of a sudden that center isn't the same center that you signed a lease for and you fell in love with. So we want to make sure that you have options. So with that dark clause, should that happen, we negotiate different types of solutions for you. You may be able to void the lease with no penalty. You may be able to convert to a percentage rent or no rent until the landlord repopulates that shopping center space. So we want to provide protections for you always, and those 17 key provisions are the way we go about that. So once we've got the lease negotiated, we review the terms and conditions with you. You will be in lockstep with the leasing manager throughout the process. So you're going to know what the initial letter of intent says, what the counter proposal is back from the landlord, what we're going to go back to them with, we strategize with you. So we get to the end of the negotiation. the lease is ready for execution, the terms and conditions are all that you've agreed to. We review that with you, and if everything's as it should be, you go ahead and execute the lease, and now we're ready to develop your store. Next step is to move in a couple of different directions. You would go to our training desk, and our trainer would be in contact with you, and she's going to schedule your training. And training happens a couple of different ways. Part of it is over the phone, scheduled at your convenience, and another big portion of it is internet-driven. We've got internet modules, computer modules that you can review at your convenience on your own time, and then follow up with the trainer with specific questions you might have, and that's a great option, so you can do it over time. In addition to that, you're going to be talking to our merchandise manager, and she's going to be starting to talk to you about different categories of merchandise. She will have all the information about your store location, the demographics, what the population is like. Is it younger? Is it older? Are the homes in the community, are they primarily owner-occupied, renter-occupied? Because all that factors into the product mix that goes into your store. And then she'll get on the phone with you and she'll talk about specific needs that you may have identified in terms of merchandise, categories you may want to emphasize or de-emphasize based on your knowledge of the area. And then with all that information in front of her, she will write a recommended set of orders. She'll send them to you, and you and she will review them, and you will approve every order, and you have full autonomy to make any additions, deletions, changes that you would like to make so that the orders are exactly what you would want them to be. At the same time, you're talking to the trainer, you're talking to the merchandise manager, you're also talking to our vice president for operations, and he is the person that's going to actually schedule the setup of your store and work with you on the many different things that you have to have in place to actually open your business. He's got a checklist of about 80 items that he will review with you and then follow up with you. Things like getting your business license, getting your sales tax ID number, setting up your federal tax ID number, and then coordinating with you and the landlord so when the space is ready, we can arrive as quickly as possible to get your store open as quickly as possible. Because in the course of negotiating a lease, we would have negotiated free rent for you, maybe 2, 3, 4 months of free rent. So we want to make sure that you have the benefit of most of that rent, and by doing so, by having us coordinate with you and your landlord, so we can arrive virtually as soon as the landlord is done with his work on the space and is handing you the keys. We know that we can set up your store in a week. We arrive on a Sunday night, walk the space with you, our build-out supervisor does. Monday morning, the fixtures and equipment and merchandise start arriving. We set up the counters, install the slat walls, put the interior signage up, set the checkout in place, and then start receiving the merchandise. And as it's coming in the door, our crew is there. We're receiving the merchandise. We're stocking the shelves. And in virtually all cases, in 7 days, you are ready to open. Larger stores take a little bit longer, but 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 square foot store, certainly we complete, generally speaking, in 7 days, start to finish. So that is the store setup process. Excuse me. Each of our setup supervisors does about 30 stores a year, so they're very adept at getting that work done as quickly as possible. They send us progress photos every evening so I can review what they've done, how the merchandise looks, is the displays what we want them to be, and we critique them every evening and make any changes so they can make those adjustments first thing in the morning and then continue with your work. Along with all of that, the training, the store setup, the operations VP that's going to be working with you, as I mentioned earlier, you become part of our supplier network, and that's key. For a couple of reasons. One, we have, as I mentioned, suppliers located around the country, so wherever you are geographically, there are suppliers relatively close to you, so you can order merchandise, have it come in quickly, so you can keep your store full all the time. We, as part of our network, and this is the most important part of what we do, we visit each of our suppliers monthly. And I do a lot of this traveling. Our owner actually does a good amount of this traveling as well. What we want to do, and what we do is we visit each supplier once a month. We walk their showrooms with them. We work every item because product's always changing in our business. There's always something new. So we want to see what they have that's new. We want to evaluate the product, and then we want to negotiate the prices, which are the prices that are going to be provided to you. It's very hard to do that from a catalog or looking at a picture on the internet because you really have to understand the product. You've got to be able to feel it and touch it. And not only merchandise, but how is it packaged? Is it packaged in a professional way? Does it have a good appearance on the shelf? You can have a beautiful item, but if the packaging is substandard, it's not going to look like the item it should. So we evaluate all of that. And then we find an item that we like. We negotiate the price. If we believe the price is acceptable, then we provide that information to you on a weekly basis. You're always going to get emails and offerings of new products from different suppliers directly from our office. And these are all items that we have evaluated and hand-selected. If we don't like an item or we can't get to the right price, you will never see it from us. We only want you to see the best of the best. So we do that on a very regular basis to make sure that the merchandise is top-notch, and then we provide that information to you. There are three critical aspects to a good merchandise program. And they are value, variety, and new merchandise. Well, we already touched on value, and the way we can provide value to you is by making sure that the product is the best product available and then negotiating the price on it. And we do that for you, as I say, week in, week out, and get that information to you. Variety. There's a couple of ways that we achieve variety, and having variety in your store obviously is important. The more you can show to your customers, the more opportunities you have to sell product to your customers. So you have your value. Now with variety, number one, we have, as I mentioned, a large number of suppliers, about 80 suppliers on our network, and some of them are general merchandise suppliers, and a general merchandise supplier would provide merchandise in a large number of categories. Then we have specialty suppliers that are the best at what they do. For example, we have a supplier who specializes in small electronics. We have a supplier that only does greeting cards. We have a supplier that only does costume jewelry. Incredible values in costume jewelry. It's one of our best categories, actually. But we have many, many different types of suppliers so that you can have as much variety as you would like in your store. But we take it one step further. In our business, when you buy merchandise, typically you have to buy in what's called a master carton. And a master carton is typically 72 pieces or 144 pieces of one item. And that's the way most often you have to buy merchandise. And that's a lot of merchandise. You know, if you're ordering a pizza cutter, you may have to order 72 or 144 pieces of that pizza cutter. You're going to be having that for quite a while. But in our merchandise network, because we do so much business with our suppliers, they make a special accommodation for our stores. And what they do is they ship what's called an inner carton. So in that master carton of 72 pieces, there are usually 6 smaller cartons of 12 pieces each. And our suppliers will ship you one of those. So instead of having 72 pieces of one item, you can have 12 pieces of 6 different items for the same inventory investment. So you've got 6 times as much variety in that one example just by being part of our network, and you replicate that throughout the store, and you can have an incredible variety of merchandise, and you're always turning that product. You know, you get 12 pizza cutters and you put them on the counter. You know, you go to check that supplier in a couple of weeks, you're down to 6, you order another 12. So about the time that last 6 is selling out, you got another dozen coming in. Instead of having 72 pieces sitting in the back room for 6 months, don't want that, and within our system you don't have to have that. So that's a key advantage, and your competitors don't have that ability because they don't have that network to support them. So that's value, that's variety. And then the last leg of a good merchandise program is new merchandise, and this is maybe after price the most critical of all, and I'll tell you why. When a customer comes into your store, they, just like when you shop or when I shop, we know what we're looking for. When I go into your store, I know what I want to buy. I want to buy paper towels. I want to buy some shampoo and conditioner. I want to get maybe some snacks. I like vanilla wafers, so I'm always going to go to the vanilla wafer section right away. But anyway, I know what I'm going to buy, and you shop the same way. You have a list. You got a mental list in your mind. You know what you want to buy. You go into that store and you grab your cart and you get those items. But then what happens? Most people will kind of then wander around the store as they're picking up those other items. They're seeing things that they didn't intend to buy. but the value is so good that they make that buying decision. I'll give you a quick example. I was in a store a few weeks ago, and I did exactly that. I had a mental list of about 6 or 8 items that I wanted to get, and I'm there, and I got my basket, and I threw them in there, and I'm looking around, and then I saw this 2-pack of kitchen towels, really nice looking towels, and I thought it would make my wife happy, and it was only $1. Made me happy too. So I picked that up, and I put it in my cart, and I continued to shop, and I saw some of these spot mirrors that you stick to your car mirror so you can see better, and I grabbed 2 packages of those, and I needed zip ties that I didn't remember, so I picked up the zip ties and a couple of toys for my grandkids, and pretty soon that $6 or $8 transaction that I intended to make when I walked into that store was like $20, because now I'm buying items that I didn't know I needed, again, but the perceived value was so good that I had to buy them, and I did. Now, when I go back to that store next week or the week after, I typically go about once a week because that's me. When I go back there, I'm going to see the paper towels that I need probably again. I probably need a couple of health and beauty aids items. Maybe I need a cleaner that, Comet or something like that I'm out of, so I'll grab that. But then I start to walk the store again, or will, and I don't need the kitchen towels. I still have them. I don't need the mirrors for my car. I still have them. And the toys for my grandkids, hopefully they survive them, and I don't need those. So I'm not a customer for those items anymore. But if you show me something new in linens, in kitchen linens, or something new in auto care, or something new in the toy department, well, now I'm a customer all over again because, again, you're showing me new items that I didn't know I needed, but I'm going to make that buying decision. And that's why the new merchandise component is so very important. It builds your average sale. It builds your bottom line profit. And it keeps your customers coming back. Because most often what we recommend and what I learned over time is those items that you add to your inventory, you don't rebuy them. Maybe you rebuy them once, but most often not at all. And a lot of times they're going to be specials that are going to be in and out, and you can't rebuy them anyway. So what that does for you, and it's kind of interesting, the psychology, if I see that 2-pack of kitchen towels and I decide not to buy them this week, I'm kind of in a hurry, I'll grab them next week. So I come back next week and they're not there, and I say, well, excuse me, sir, where are or ma'am? I saw these kitchen towels I wanted to grab, I didn't have time last week. And you're going to tell me, well, that was a special buy. We get them all the time, special buys, but they're different. And that one, unfortunately, is no longer available. But we have some really nice items that just came in. Let me show them to you. What that does for me as a customer is it does 2 things. It tells me that I'm always going to find something new in your store every time I come. So it's going to make me want to come back in addition to the items I know I needed. But more importantly, it creates a sense of urgency on my part to make that buying decision today. So I know the next time I see an item in that store that's like those towels, I'm going to buy it right now because I know, they're going to have something else great, but I want these, and I'm not going to take a chance. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to buy them now. So you're very quickly educating your customer to become that treasure hunter and to make those buying decisions quickly. So new merchandise, at the end of the day, it's the engine that pulls the train, and we provide you information on literally hundreds of new items every month that you can add to your merchandise assortment. And the people here in our office that work with you are going to help you make those best buying decisions for you, because every store is a little bit different. Going back to training for just one quick second, for the first 3 to 4 months after your store opens, your store is going to remain on your trainer's desk, and she's going to be in very regular contact with you, helping you write orders in the early days if you need help placing orders, helping you get ready for every season and holiday, and making sure that your store is trending in the right direction, providing you whatever assistance you might need. After that period of time, after that 3 months or so, if we feel and you feel that you've got your arms around the store and things are going well, we move your store to a long-term coordinator's desk, and that person is going to perform that same function for as long as you're in business. They may contact you once a week, but they're always available to you at any time for any assistance that you might need. If you need help working with a vendor, doing some seasonal orders, sourcing an item that you're getting requests for and you don't know quite where to go to get that item. Whatever those things might be, they're always available to you. So that is basically the 7 key services. Long-term support is key. Those the long-term support person and certainly our trainers, very important to you. And I'll share something very quickly with you. Certain times of year, those persons are going to be your best friend because you walk into your store the day after Thanksgiving weekend, which is a very busy retail weekend, as most of us know. You walk in your store Monday morning after Thanksgiving, you start to look around and you say, oh my gosh, you know, I'm out of medium Christmas gift bags. I'm out of red and green tissue to stuff those bags. I'm out of 24-count crayons for stocking stuffers, and on. And say, I got to sit down at my desk. I got to find out who has all these items so I get some orders put together. Well, you don't. What you do is you call your representative here in our office and you say, I need to know who has these 5 items. I need to put a large order together, but I need to go to one source to get these 5 items. And the representative that you have here in our office is going to know, she's going to have a list on her desk, a hot list of all those key items with the different suppliers that provide them. And she's going to look at that list and she's going to say, you know what, supplier A has them. Let's go ahead and put an order together with them right now. So instead of you spending hours contacting suppliers, trying to go through websites, making phone calls, you make one call and we get that product coming. Because between Thanksgiving and Christmas, every day sales-wise is like 3 days any other time of the year. It gets that much busier. So you don't want to be out of anything for a day, no less a week. So that person is going to be a key resource for you, and you'll find that they can give you an awful lot of good assistance. So that's just one piece of the long-term support that we provide. So that's our program. We're going to get to questions in a minute. I did want to spend just a few minutes, and I appreciate everybody's patience because I do tend to go on, and I apologize for that. But there are some exciting things happening in our industry that I wanted to share with you. You know, we've been through this pandemic. A lot of businesses suffered. Sadly, a lot of businesses had to close. They weren't able to reopen. Dollar stores were a big exception to that. Our stores were busier than ever because we had product that people wanted and needed, and we had it at the lowest possible prices. And our stores were considered to be essential by the cities and the states, and so they did not have to close. They were allowed to stay open, where many other businesses were not. So that was a huge advantage for our stores, for the dollar store business in general. Dollar General, I think, for the second quarter of last year, which is the height of the pandemic, they had the largest year-over-year sales increase in the history of their company, right and that's March, April, May of 2020, when things were really, really difficult with COVID. They were doing better business in our stores as well. So sadly, it was a boon for us. A lot of people suffered. A lot of businesses suffered. The other benefit, I hate to use the word benefit, the other thing that occurred that is benefiting our stores and people like you right now is that great locations are available because a lot of those businesses could not reopen. So landlords have locations, they've got great locations, and they want to find quality tenants such as yourselves. And more importantly, they want to have a business that won't be required to close if something like this, and I hope to everything that it never does, but if it did happen, they want a business that can stay open and continue to do business and, of course, pay them rent. And they know that our stores can do that, so we're very attractive to them. So that's one other interesting comment about our business. We did find that there were some surveys done after the pandemic where things kind of started to get back to normal, and they pulled, in this one survey that I read, they pulled a lot of grocery store customers, and they asked a couple of key questions. One, they asked, what is the most important thing to you when you go to a grocery store? And it was kind of centered, the poll was kind of centered on the fact that grocery stores were out of a lot of product and the dollar stores were not. Our supply chain is much different than a traditional grocery store, so we're able to get product and get it quickly. Anyway, so one of the key questions they asked was, what is the most important thing to you when you shop a store, any store? And they said convenience and price. And what does a dollar store provide? We're the most convenient retail store that you can imagine to shop. To get in and get out, you can park out front, you do your shopping, and you're on your way. And price goes without saying. We're always going to be the least expensive on virtually every item that we carry that a grocery store carries or a Walmart carries and so on. We're always going to be less expensive. And then the other key thing that came out was they asked the shoppers, did you feel or do you feel that during the pandemic that your grocery store took advantage of you and they price gouged you? And whether that's true or not, people believe that that's what happened and is still happening. And I know when I go to the grocery store, I'm paying a lot more for meat. I'm paying a lot more for paper products. I'm paying a lot more for lots of things. The dollar stores are basically, the prices haven't changed, so explain that to me. But so that's what's in people's minds. That's what's in your customers' minds. They want value. They want convenience. They want to feel like they're getting a good deal. And that's what they get in your typical dollar store. So that's so important. And, you know, right now, we're coming up on the fall holidays. There's still a great opportunity if you do decide to go forward to get your store open for the holiday to take advantage of some of that business. I will say there's never a there's never a bad time to open a dollar store. There's always something going on the calendar for us, whether it's Thanksgiving, Halloween, Valentine's Day, spring, summer, graduation, all the patriotic holidays. There's always a season in our business. But if you can open during Christmas, it is a little bit of an advantage because you get to introduce your store to many more people quickly. But as I say, there's never a bad time. But if you are ready to go now, certainly we'll do our utmost to get you open to take advantage of that. So with that said, I neglected to mention at the outset, but because you did attend this teleseminar, if you do decide to open a store, you will receive $2,000 in extra free merchandise when we develop your store for you. And one other reminder, you know, if you do decide to go forward, simply have to do a quick application and a fully refundable deposit with your sales representative, and that'll get the process started. You'll move into finance first, and you will know within 72 hours what type of financing you qualify for, what the terms are, and how much. And then you can make the decision as to whether or not, you know, that looks good to you and you want to go forward. If you do, that's great. We get you right into site location. We go to work. If you decide it's not for you or you want to wait, that's fine. You just let us know. We'll refund your deposit to you. But again, within 72 hours, you're going to know what you can do. And it's a very quick process. So with that, what I would like to do is now kind of open it up to questions. And I would ask you just that if you have a question, unmute your phone, and then just, you know, introduce yourself with your first name and the city and state that you're in. And let's get to those questions. And remember, there's never a bad question except for the one that you don't ask. So I am ready. First question?
Hi, Sharon, Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes, Sharon, go ahead.
I know you touched base on the square footage. You said the minimum was 10,000 square feet?
Yes. No. The minimum for the big box store is 10,000 square feet. We started at 1,000 for all the other types of dollar stores.
Okay, so the price is based on the square footage.
That is correct. And a 1,000 square foot dollar only store starts at $78.9.
That was my question.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Next question?
Hi, this is April, Columbia, South Carolina.
Hello, how are you, April? Is everybody from South Carolina tonight? I'm good.
Now, I wanted to go back over finances because I kind of missed some of it. So I was
okay.
And the options.
Okay. Okay, very good question. And there are a number of different types of programs, and you know they're designed to address different credit profiles. Some of the options are using your 401k or your IRA, and that's a very inexpensive way to fund your store because you're borrowing basically your own money. And we have a lender that can set that up for you. We also can do SBA. There are certain qualifications. They vary a little bit from one person to another, but we can help you with that. We also have lenders that work with business lines of credit. Some individuals choose to use the home equity that they have, maybe if they have a home and they've had it for a little while, and there's a lot of equity with the way the housing market is right now in many parts of the country. So there's a number of different plans and options that you can consider. And what happens is when you make that application, you come into finance. We have some finance advisors here in our office that will be, one of which will be assigned to you, and they will review your credit profile, and they'll review with you what lenders and what programs you will qualify for, and then they'll run you through with those lenders to see how much you can qualify and what the specific terms are going to be for you. And you'll have that answer within 72 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Hi, Wanda
Yes.
Winfield, Buffalo, New York.
Oh, very good. Good evening.
Explain a little bit about the 100% financing. How are you qualified for that?
Okay, that's expanding on the last question. Most lenders are typically credit score driven, FICO driven. So you would need to have a credit score of around 700. If you're a little bit below that, we have several lenders that can help you with credit. 685, you're right there. A number of our lenders have the ability to do credit repair, and sometimes there may be a little blemish on your credit or something that you don't even know is there. Often that's the case. Happened to me a few years ago. But they can, at no cost or very low cost, increase that credit score, and you're talking about 15 points, it's pretty minimal. They can get you to where you can qualify.
Okay. All right. I'll call tomorrow and talk about that. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Wanda. Yes, next question?
Hi, this is Terry, Enterprise, Alabama.
Thanks for coming in this evening.
Hi. I have a question in regards to once you, get the financing and you're leasing, is that the lifetime of the store, or is there like a certain time you have to repay for the growth of the store? If that's making sense at all.
I want to make sure I understand.
Like the repayment
of the loan?
Yes.
Okay. The loan, typically you would pay, the programs vary, but typically you would pay that back over a number of years, anywhere from 3 to 6 years, something like that. And again, it varies a little bit depending on the type of loan and the terms of the loan. But once that's done, it's just like when you buy a car, no different. You pay for your car for 4 years or 6 years, and then you own the car forever. And the store is no different.
Okay.
Does that kind of answer your question?
It does, yes. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Terry. Yes.
Are we leasing these stores out, or are we explaining?
Okay, good question. Yeah, you are leasing the space. You own everything in the store. You own the merchandise, you own the fixtures and the equipment and all of that. But you're leasing the space, and most leases would be either a 3-year or a 5-year term, and we always try and negotiate some option periods. Because, for example, you may say you sign a 3-year lease. We want to make sure that if you're doing well, that you have the ability to stay there in that location. And we want to negotiate what that rent's going to be for the second 3 years and the third 3 years, so the landlord can't all of a sudden come back and raise your rent arbitrarily. So they want to stay here. I'm going to maybe see if I can get a couple more bucks from them. So we're going to negotiate those options, and they're always at your discretion. You get towards the end of that 3 years, you're doing great business. You want to exercise that next option for another 3, great, you do that. Or maybe you find going into that last year of that 3-year lease, you're thinking, I wish I had a bigger space. I wish I had, instead of this 2,000, I wish I had 4,000 or 5,000, because I'm doing great. I could do so much better with more square footage. So Then you have the option of going back to the landlord and negotiating for a larger space in that center, or maybe an adjacent space that you could expand into, or maybe a space in another shopping center. So we want to make sure that you're protected always. So those are some of the things that we do. So if you like the location and you're doing well, you'll be able to stay there. If you want to expand, you'll have options to do that as well.
Thank you.
Makes sense? Thank you very much. Next question?
Hi, my name is Janet. I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia. So in addition to the $78.9, you're also paying a monthly lease for the space, or is that all included in the $78.9?
No, the $78.9 is just for the actual setup of the store and the services
And
that I
merchandise.
provided. Yeah, the lease is separate from that.
Okay.
Good question.
This is Sharon
Hi, this is
again,
Sharon.
Columbia. I thought
Oh,
that
yes,
you
Sharon.
said that
Sharon, go ahead.
although it costs approximately $78.9, that you all try to negotiate at least 2 to 4 months of free leasing with that. Is that not included in the services? It's not guaranteed, but you try to negotiate that, right?
Yeah, no, it's not guaranteed because every lease negotiation is different. I'll give you a quick example. If you're negotiating on a space, or we're negotiating a space for you, and it's 100%, it's a nice clean space, the landlord doesn't have to do any work at all or very little work, they're inclined to be a little bit more lenient with allowing free rent because they don't have to invest anything into the space. If we find a space that you really like, and that's great, but maybe it was a medical office before, and that's a bad example, but say it was. So there's a lot of little rooms in there. And the landlord has to demo them all out, and then he's got to redo the flooring and redo the ceiling and things like that. They're going to be a little bit more difficult to negotiate free rent with, or a lot of free rent with, because now they have to spend money to get the space ready for you. So each one is a little bit different. And sometimes, you know, I'm working with a landlord right now, and this space that we're talking about, it just needs flooring and it needs paint. And I think we have 3 months of free rent on the table right now. But this landlord, I said, we want you to do the flooring and we want you to do the paint. And he came back to us and he said, I'll be honest with you. He said, I don't want to have to deal with doing that, having to find a contractor and going through all of that. He said, but I'll tell you what, how much do you think that's going to cost? So we said, well, the flooring and paint, it's going to be about $6,000. He said, okay, I'll give you another 2 months of free rent, and your tenant can go ahead and do that work themselves, which is great because I know that our tenant is going to be able to go in there and paint for $1,000 and probably pay $2,500 and get the floor done and pocket that extra money that he would have paid for those other 2 months of free rent. So it's always a negotiation, and what we always try and do is what's best for the client. I really don't care about the landlord. We want to do what's best for you. So we'll always go through that, and as I say, everyone's a little bit different, but we'll talk through the economics of it together to see, is that a good option for you or not, and then we'll go forward from there. Does it make sense?
Yes, thanks.
Good, thank you very much. This next question?
Hi, this is Sharon from Georgia. I have a two-part question. First part is on the training. When the store is about to open and the trainer comes in, are they assisting us with finding employees?
That we actually do before. Okay. Two good questions. Normally, in the training from our office, before we ever get to your store, we're going to be working with you to help hire employees. We have, templates for the ads. It's all part of the training function that we go through, how to advertise, how to screen, how to hire. So that's typically all done before you ever get to your store. And as far as training them on the key operations of the store, cash handling and things like that, we do that with you well in advance as part of your training. But we do it again on site the last day of the store setup before you're ready to open, so everything's fresh in your mind. And you're welcome to have excuse me, you're welcome to have your employees there. In fact, what I always encourage store owners to do is if you have some employees or that you've hired or family members that are going to be involved in the store, we can always make them part of the store setup crew, so that they're and of course we'll pay them, but in that instance they're there from day one, learning a lot. You know what the product looks like, who it comes from, why do we display things a certain way. So you know that's always an option for you, and we always offer that. You know, if you have people that are going to work in your store, and you want them there as part of the setup, we'll do that. Another thing that sometimes happens is if we do end up hiring some local labor to help us with the store setup, which often we do, often a store owner may like how one or two people in that crew work. They're really diligent, they do nice work, they're pleasant. They may end up hiring one of those people, and that's great too. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get there as far as how to train and how to hire and so on, but we spend a lot of time with that in training for you.
Okay, and you said that if they're part of the setup, you know, even if it's a family member or somebody that we, you know, would make a good employee, you're going to pay them to help during the setup?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, the only thing I will say is that if I have my great grandma, you probably she's 93 years old. 93 years old, and she's got one of those big horns that she listens through. That's probably not going to work. You're right. But as long as somebody can physically do the work, absolutely.
Okay. And my other question was, what's the typical revenue or profit for, let's say, the minimum store, the 1,000 square foot store? What's the average?
Okay. Good question. And it's the hardest question to answer. Here's what I can tell you right now. Because every store is a little bit different, every space is a little bit different. Of course, the economics are different too. You know, you may do less business in a store in another state, but your rent may be 50% less too. So it's hard to put hard numbers, but here's what I can tell you. In a dollar-only store, the average cost of goods is going to be about 54 cents, 55 cents. So that means your gross margin on product is 45 cents. So every time you sell an item for $1, you make 45 cents. And then when we look at locations, I usually look for location, and again, you know, if you're in a very rural area, this number is going to be different, but typically I look for a store that will do at least $180 a square foot in sales annually. And that's kind of a general guideline, but more importantly what we do, and I can always do this for you, I do it with many of our clients, is when we get to that point in time where the lease is fully negotiated, we know what the terms are, we know what the rent's going to be, we know how much free rent you're going to get, and then we know everything there is to know about the location, you know, who the co-tenants are, where they are, what the population looks like, the household income, all those other factors. I can sit down and put together a worksheet that you and I can review that basically breaks down the potential for that store. Now, it's not obviously a guarantee, but it can be pretty spot on in terms of the revenue, and then I estimate the expenses as well. So you can back out your utilities and labor costs and things like that. And I'm always happy to do that before you sign the lease if you have a question about the potential of that store. And we do that on a very regular basis. So.
Right. That's good to know. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Right now.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for your questions.
Yeah.
Next question? Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Hello. This is Ramsey from Augusta, Georgia.
Good evening. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. One question I have: that 79.5. What size store did that cover? The 79.
That's a thousand. That is a thousand square foot dollar only store.
Okay. The max square footage store. What's the price on that as far as the initial price on that store?
Okay. For the larger, well, we really don't have any cap on store, store size. But just to give you an example, a 10,000 square foot dollar only store would be $265,900.
Okay, 265. Okay, the next question I have, I'm going back to that minimum 79. What percentage of that 79.5 is covered covers merchandise, what percentage is the value of the merchandise of the 79.5?
Okay.
Original.
Good question. Good question. In the dollar-only store, the merchandise in that 1,000 square foot store is $16,000 at cost, about $32,000 at retail.
Okay. It's $60,000 cost, 32 retail?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay. I'll just take a
Yes,
note.
sir.
Okay. All righty. And also another question, as far as what is the maximum amount? Is there a pretty much, do you have any kind of set forth, I guess, system where, you know, you're not going to let, I guess, store rights, I guess property rights or zoning rights, original rights. You don't want two stores side by side. Say two of us on the line now, you know, we can't open stores within 3 miles of each other, et cetera, with your territorial rights. Do you have anything like that set in place?
Yeah, what we do, it's not a hard number, Ramsey, because it's going to vary by area because of the difference in population. So we don't just set a hard distance requirement. You know, in Ames, Iowa, 3 miles may be too close. In New York City, a quarter of a mile is probably too far. So what we do, and yes, we're very sensitive to that. What we do is if we were to do a store for you and you're there in Augusta, Georgia, and then we get another client that says, you know, I want to do a store in Augusta too, well, we know where you are, number one, and we're going to make sure that we put that other store far enough away, whether by distance or by population, that your trade area is not impacted by putting a store too close to you, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm really sensitive to that. In fact, what we do is as soon as we open a store, we add it to our mapping system here. So when the next person in Augusta comes up and we look at a location for them, that map immediately shows all the competitors that are there, and it also, you know, here's a Dollar Tree, here's a Family Dollar, and so on. But then it also red flags our stores, because that's, you know, that's the most important thing that we want to protect. Whether it's our store or another store, we don't want you too close because, you know, on your side of the table, you want to have a unique trade area, whether it's distance from our store or Dollar Tree, doesn't matter. So we want to make sure that you have a unique trade area. So we always do that mapping. It's the first thing that we do.
Okay. Final question. I know that other people have questions, but as far as, I know these are dollar stores, but what about naming rights? You know, of course, everybody, I just don't want to be called dollar store. So do I have any kind of naming rights that I could, you know, add to the dollar store?
And here's, oh, absolutely, yeah. And you don't want to call it dollar store. That's pretty vanilla. I agree with you. Yet, surprisingly, a lot of folks do. You know, we're not a franchise, so you can name the store whatever you choose. And when we get to that point, you know, we found a location and you like it and we're in the final negotiations, you know, that's one of the things that I do. I'll work with you on kind of deciding on what that name should be. And what I do to start with, Ramsey, I've got a list of probably several hundred names that over the years different owners have used or thought about using, and I keep compiling that list and adding to it. And I'll send it to you, and it's a good place to start to brainstorm from for a name for you, because you want a couple of things with the name. You want it to have some meaning. You want it to tell a story. And sometimes it's nice to tie it to the area or to something, you know, like, you know, maybe you're in Ohio, you call it Buckeye Dollar Plus or something like that. So
exactly.
It's unique to you, exactly. And, you know, when you decide you want to open your second store, your third store, now you're starting to build a brand because you can use that name for all those stores or subsequent stores. So, yeah, so we work very hard with you to come up with that name. And the other thing that's important when you think about a name, and I know we're not doing that tonight, but the shorter the name, the larger the sign can be. And that's kind of key, you know, because when you have a storefront, and I don't want to get too deep into the detail, but typically the sign criteria for the city or for the shopping center or both, typically it says you can use about 80% of the width of your storefront for your sign. So if you want to call it Augusta Dollar Emporium, that sign's going to be really small. because you got a lot of letters. You know, if you call it GA dollar, you know, your sign can be much bigger, your letters can be much bigger. So it's always a consideration.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Great questions. Appreciate it. Next question. I know there has to be one more. I'm sure of it. Well, all right. So I want to touch on one more thing very briefly, and again, I appreciate everyone's time and patience this evening. One thing I neglected to talk about earlier is because you are independent owners, you can take your store in whatever direction you choose in terms of merchandise and services that you offer. And we do have, and owners are very creative, and I'm always learning something new from them, but we do have a number of programs that you can add to your store that are very inexpensive to add, and sometimes they can create a lot of additional traffic and revenue for you. For example, a lot of our stores participate in the EBT program, which is the food stamp program. And we, in training, we'll talk about how you can set that up if you choose to do so for your store. And it's very inexpensive to get into. Other programs that some stores add are notary services. Again, very inexpensive to set up. It can be a nice source of revenue and brings people to your store. It's very hard if you ever had to get something notarized. It's very, very hard to find somebody that does that anymore. So that's a key service that you can provide with virtually no cost to you. We have a key center where you can duplicate keys. You know, if you've ever been to Home Depot or Walmart to get a key made, it's like $4 or $5. Those key blanks cost 50 cents. So we have a nice key program where you can sell your keys for $2 or $3 or 2 for $3 and triple your money. Again, it's a nice service. It takes up 2 square feet on your checkout counter. Stores tend to add other things like rack programs like Little Debbie. We work with Coke and Pepsi to put coolers in your store so that you can offer their products as well. We have a program where you can do custom printed banners while your customer waits, do them right there in the store. And so many other programs that are easy to add. Again, I want to thank everybody for their time this evening. I know everybody's time is valuable and it's late for lots of...
With that being said, I have one question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Is there fees for those extra services?
Yeah, there's a cost for each one, but we walk you, because you have to buy equipment, but we walk you through that. Most of them are very inexpensive. Like the notary, you buy a stamp. Once you take the notary class in your state, usually it costs about $50 to take the class. And you have to buy a stamp, which costs about $25 at Home Depot, and you're in the notary business. And there's many, many things like that. The key duplication program, I think, has a cost of $1,300 to set up, and it's got like 800 or 1,000 key blanks, plus the key machine, the rack to show everything. So most of them are very inexpensive to get into.
And so who works it? You have to hire someone to try to work those machines?
Your cashier can do it. It's very simple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't need any extra staffing for any of that. It's just extra revenue and profit.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to get out real quick, you know, everybody I know has a sales representative assigned to them. It would have been on the email that you received. If you have questions, of course, reach out to them. You can always call me as well. I'll give you my number real quick if you want to jot it down. It's 702-637-3389. And again, my name's John LaFronz. I'm the general manager here. Your sales rep is always the best source, but I'm always happy to talk to you. And I know many of you may have follow-up questions. Give me a call. Happy to spend the time to go through them with you, so don't hesitate. And with that, again, I'd like to thank everybody. Yes, go ahead.
Can you repeat your number again? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. 702-637-3389. And if I don't answer, leave a message. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And if you're ready to get started, call your store development rep tomorrow. We'll get going. And don't forget, you do have that $2,000 in free merchandise incentive if you decide to go forward and you do your application deposit by, I think it's next Wednesday. Then you would qualify for that as well. So Again, thank you everybody for your time. I appreciate it. Great questions. That's always the best part of the evening for me. And look forward to having the opportunity to work with some of you, or maybe all of you. Who knows? But thank you very much. Forward and to do your application deposit by, I think it's next Wednesday.